Off and running on the Krueger Show. Hope everybody's having a great Saturday morning. It is March the 23rd, 2024. We are brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out, and they do run out. We're also brought to you by Marin Auto Glass, 415-883-3030. Underdog Fantasy. Check that link in the description. Use the promo code KRUEG, K-R-U-E-G, and they'll match you up to your first $100. And, of course, we're also brought to you by our good friends along the Monterey Peninsula. That's right. Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. Call Anthony Catania. He's at 831-521-5264 for all your sports collectible needs. What's up, Coach? How's your Saturday going? Noon Eastern to 12 minutes after 9 West Coast. 12 in the East where the coach joins us. Coach, how are you?
I'm feeling good, man. It's raining cats and dogs over on my side of the country. So, it's a gloomy day. But right now, man, it's a good opportunity to get some spring cleaning coming in. The winter's subsiding. We're starting to get warmer days. Daylight savings time has passed. So that's kind of like what's going on my side, just trying to start getting geared up for the good weather, man.
I hear you. It's rainy here on the West Coast today. We do have 2 youth baseball games that I'll be checking my phone to see if they're canceled. My varsity high school kid plays today, and my own team with my 14-year-old plays today. But it rained last night, and it says it's going to rain later today, and so I would imagine we will have no baseball. Do you have an NCAA tournament route? Are you rooting for any particular? Seems like there's a lot of good. JMU, I saw, got the upset yesterday over Wisconsin. And are you a JM? You can't be too far from JMU, right?
Yeah, man. I'm a fan of the Dukes. You know what I'm saying? Right now, I got actually, I have a family friend that my little brother played with, actually, Cornell Acker. He played running back for the Dukes. I believe he broke the freshman all-time rushing record there when he was there, I believe, back in 2010 or 11. So JMU has always been one of those programs that they always seem to get our scrappy guys. So JMU would kind of be in the same ilk of maybe like a Sac State, right? Or school that's respected. If you know, you got to be a local guy. And some of the guys that are in your high school enclave that are tough kids, but they maybe not have the height, weight, speed element, but they're still dog players. Those are the guys that go to JMU and make a name for themselves. So there's schools like that all littered around the DMV area, particularly in the Atlantic 10 Conference, the CIAA, which is the conference that I coached in. It's an HBCU college conference here. So that's really kind of my side of sports, that D2, D3, D1 AA, where, the kids, it's awesome to see the kids on a big stage because we really don't get those looks. So, yeah, I'm a big underdog guy.
I'm a Sac State guy myself, so you know what? You're bringing up Sac State hits home. Can you name the famous JMU graduate who became a great 49er?
I don't want to cheat.
Who became a Hall of Fame?
What?
49er. One of the baddest men that ever played this game.
Why am I tripping? Charles Haley.
My favorite Bill Walsh story is Bill Walsh saw him on film and walked into the war room. I don't know if it was on draft day. It was probably a week or two ahead, and said, "Gentlemen, this is Charles Haley, and we will be drafting him." That's awesome. When you have such a feeling on a prospect that you'll walk into the room and say, "You know what? We'll be drafting this guy." That's awesome. I love that conviction. All right, I entitled the stream today. Excuse me. Will Kyle Shanahan ever win a Super Bowl with the 49ers?
Mm-hmm.
I'll throw that question to you, and then I'll give you my thoughts on it. But what do you think? Is Shanahan going to climb to the top of the mountain with the Niners, or is he going to fall short of his ultimate goal?
It's trending to a no. Uh, right now, and it's not. We just have to go with history, right? It's not even about Kyle specifically as the man or the coach, but what happens in situations like this is that very few teams hold on to their guy that can operate the team, keep development, keep the team relevant, but not get over the hump. Now, this would be a good social experiment because Kyle probably would be one of the first to kind of break that trend. But you have guys that get moved out of the door, like a Tony Dungy, like a Andy Reid, right? Where these are guys where they built their programs and their regimes from the ground up. They were very hands-on, but their voice got stale. And it started becoming a factor of like, we cannot win a Super Bowl with this man. Now, that was on a different landscape of the NFL at the time, in my opinion, where Super Bowls had a lot more weight at that time, where winning the Super Bowl was a lot more grandiose. There was a lot more cachet with winning a Super Bowl. Where I really feel like going to a Super Bowl now, there's a lot more pageantry involved, and if you're if you're enough to just be in the orbit of that pageantry, I feel like there's a lot of owners and organizations that feel like that's kind of good enough, right? And we'll find a way to spin it. We'll find a way to create the narrative. But the bottom line is that we want the money, right? And I feel like competitively, in the landscape of where the Niners are geographically, there's really nobody around to really challenge them. And if the Niners stay viable and they win, I don't necessarily see ownership really pressing on Kyle to, win a Super Bowl or get fired, right? Because really the beast is too big to fail. And for that reason, I feel like there will be a problem with Kyle winning a Super Bowl here because teams are getting better. The gap is closing. Every year there's a new shift in power of who are the most dominant and who are the better teams in the NFL. We have yet to see how we shake up in that mix up once free agency is done and we get past all of the regular off season and draft and things of that nature. But I feel like if Kyle's biggest issue is that he needs people around him to help to elevate him to where he needs to go. And his coaching staffs are becoming very transient, where people are not staying a long time. There's nobody there really kind of helping Kyle, but more or less elevating their own career under the success of what Kyle and John has built. So yeah, I don't see him winning a Super Bowl because he needs help. He needs true help. He needs a mentor that is young enough or old enough to actually be on the staff that he'll listen to. He needs somebody who's young enough under him that is as fiery as he was. He needs to learn how to deal with his younger self and understand what it's like to have to corral somebody who really wants to run their offense a better way so you yourself can grow new skills as a leader. And those are just some of the things. I touched on this on a show earlier this week. I believe there should be 3 elements in every man's life. I believe that you should have peers around you to push you so you guys can inspire each other. I believe that you should have mentees under you to hold you to the standard so you can pass down what you've learned so you can always be held accountable. And I believe that you should have a mentor above you so you can aspire to be the better person that you are. And I just feel as though that being around Kyle from this perspective, not just his whole career, but him being our head coach for going on 8 seasons now and what we know, it's a little disjointed. And I feel like we're seeing it come out in the wash in these wins and losses. He's not losing because of football now. It's because of the man. He's losing. He's losing because of who he is as a person. He needs to change.
Um, it's interesting. I mean, the comparison with Shanahan that always comes up is Andy Reid, because Andy Reid was so good in Philly, had about a 14-year run there, won double digits, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times in 14 years, and then had an 8-8 year and a 4-12 year, and they kicked him to the curb, and he went to Kansas City, and you know people think, oh, he went to Kansas City and he just immediately won Super Bowls. He actually coached 6 seasons in Kansas City, almost Kyle Shanahan's entire tenure in San Francisco, before he won the Super Bowl in Kansas City.
Mhm.
So I just really believe that it comes down to, I mean, one, do you think Kyle's a good offensive coach? I do.
Yes.
And then it comes down to, do you have your quarterback? And you guys all know how I feel. I feel like they have their quarterback. So I think he is going to get it done. I think the only wrinkle on this where I think it's kind of debatable is the in San Francisco with the 49ers. Like, I think Shanahan's a young man whose scheme works, it produces points, and he's a coaching lifer. He's going to do it for another 20 years, and I think he's going to get a Super Bowl. The question is, what kind of run does he have here in San Francisco? Does it end in San Francisco before he gets it done? And it could, but Jed has had such bad luck hiring coaches that I think he's going to be
I don't
very,
see
very,
the
very
only
cautious.
way the only way that Kyle would ever get fired here, in my opinion, is if they miss the playoffs. Because it is the bottom line. And I don't believe that Jed is the sole I don't believe the buck stops with Jed. I believe the buck stops with Dr. York. And
Missing the playoffs is definitely possible.
I don't think so, not yet.
You don't think so? I mean, look at all the depth in the NFC and the division. You never know.
Nah, not yet. Brock is going to have a full off season. That's going to be. I think people are going to be surprised how much Brock has improved. Brock's going to have a full season without being hurt. We got the Juwan situation out of the way. The offensive line hopefully is going to get retooled. We got our depth back with the defensive line. I don't think we'll be as good as we were last year, but the playoffs, I think we'll easily get into the playoffs.
Reed had a 583 win percentage in Philly when they dumped him. Shanahan right now has got a 557 win percentage, but he's also had 3 years in a row, 12-5 Super Bowl appearance, 13-4 NFC title game appearance, 10-7 NFC title game appearance. And then, of course, the 2020 weird year, COVID year. But if you go back to 2019, once again, double-digit season, 13-3, lose the Super Bowl. He's been knocking on the door. Now he's got his quarterback. I think he'll continue to knock on the door for the next 4 or 5 years, and I think they're bound to win one. That's all. I don't know if they'll ever get into a run where they win 2 and 3 and 4, and a Walsh type run, or some kind of epic dynasty. But I think they'll find a way to get their one.
Well, let me ask you this.
In this mix with the Niners before they show them the door.
Okay, let me ask you this. Do you feel like, because I floated this, do you feel like we talk about the window, right? And the window is, I feel like the window is a nod to one championship, right? And because of that, when we don't win, right? What we keep talking about is reloading, right? It was the revenge tour, then it was Quest for Six, then it was One More Ride. I mean, Jesus Christ, we're like Fast and the Furious at one point. And all of these titles that we had for basically virtue signaling towards we're not done with the mission. But when you look at the teams that we've had from 2019 to now, right? One could almost say, not only are we not winning the Super Bowl, the one Super Bowl that we covet so much, but we've erred on the side of wasting a dynasty. This team is ridiculously good. And they've been they've been really good at times when the league has not been as good. And we still
But
have
can you,
got it done.
but not to interrupt, Coach, but can you call him a dynasty when Jimmy Garoppolo was the quarterback? That's the only thing.
If they won,
I hear you, but I mean, like, how many dynasties are led by a quarterback as limited as Jimmy Garoppolo?
well, it's not. Well, wait a minute. We got to the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, so
So
which
there's
is
that.
impressive. That's impressive.
Right.
But you know what I'm
There's
saying? At
that.
the end of the day, like, go through all the dynasties in the history of the NFL.
Mhm.
Green Bay had, Bart Starr, Terry Bradshaw in Pittsburgh. The Niners had Joe and then Steve. Patriots had Brady. And then all of a sudden we'd be like, well, and then the Niners had this dynasty with Jimmy Garoppolo.
No, but it was wasted. It was wasted from a standpoint of the team was good enough to win.
Yeah.
Like you can, that's what I'm talking
team.
about.
It was a
Like,
great
these
team with
great teams.
kind of an okay
Like,
quarterback.
I understand that we can hone in on the quarterback and honestly say that when you look at dynasties, you can look at quarterbacks that were great, right? But there are also quarterbacks that stayed the course and helped elevate the team. You could talk about Terry Bradshaw with Pittsburgh. He was an average quarterback that was there with a great team, kept them going, right? So I understand that
he was pretty freaking great at the end, but yeah, no, totally. He was not a. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, but he's a Hall of Famer.
He's a Hall of Famer, but I wasn't around for Terry Bradshaw, but I've watched a lot of that film. It was rough.
The first couple years were a little rough.
Yeah, he was developmental, right? So
he had a huge arm and he wasn't there yet.
Yeah, exactly. He still had a ways to go at that time, but they were still winning, right? They still made a way to take advantage of what they had in great teams. So all of this time, you could look at all of the time of us being good this long, right? Like you could look at the Bills. The Bills lost 4 times in a row. You could say, oh, they just missed their Super Bowl. They really wanted their Super Bowl. But truthfully, if you got a team that can knock on the door that consistently, that's a missed dynasty. That's not just one team that fumbled. You don't just accidentally make it back to the Super Bowl 4 times, right? The same way you don't just accidentally just make it back to the NFC Championship game in the Super Bowl 3 to 4 times and twice within 5 to 6 years. Like, this was a very good team where the possibilities of what we were as a team is multiple Super Bowls, not just fighting just to get one. Like, we've been very good for a while. This wasn't just a team that, all right, okay, I can see if we got together in 2019, we caught lightning in the bottle. We went and drafted him. We went and traded for Emmanuel Sanders in the middle of the season. And then boom, like, we're in cap hell the next year. We kind of just had to throw it all together to push for that year. No, we finished in 2019 and we're galvanized. Like, we are here to stay. This team is ready. We're not going anywhere. We're here to build. We're young. We're going to pay these guys. And we were right in some instances. These guys in 2019, they were not the best in their positions in the league. Dre Greenlaw was not one of the best linebackers in the league. Neither was Fred. These guys were growing and ascending. And if you look at the team thus far, everything has worked but that quarterback situation. And you have to look at it and say that it was a waste. It's a wasted dynasty. The Trey Lance pick, us being in cap hell for 3 years in a row without having a first-round pick, us even making the decision to go after Trey because Kyle was upset that Jimmy didn't want to play past his injuries in 2020. Like, you got to go back and kind of look at the decisions made and how things went. And then we lucked out with Brock. Even in getting Brock, we still got bounced out with the Eagles. He comes back off of a hurt year, and we're the healthiest that we've ever been, not just in the league, but from our own standard, we're being one of the most historically injured teams in the league. And we still didn't get it done. I'm just talking about how it's going to be talked about and how other people outside of us are going to look at all of it. And it's a missed opportunity. It's dreams deferred. It's not just one Super Bowl, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I just don't think I look at the Niners as Shanahan and a really good defense, and he hasn't had his quarterback. And now this year he had his quarterback, and they got really, really close, and they lost to Mahomes in Kansas City. Now, 3 years from now, with Shanahan and this defense and their quarterback, if they continue to fall short, then I'll say wasted dynasty. But I can't call the Niners a dynasty. To me, you have to win one, and you have to have a great quarterback. If you win one, you have a great quarterback, then you're in that dynasty group. They had a good defense. They had a really good defense, and they had Shanahan, and they got close. But at the end of the day, I mean, they messed up on Trey. They messed up by going with Jimmy. They put way too much on Jimmy, and then it was like there was all of this elephant in the room was that they didn't trust Jimmy, and that's like that 19 run to the Super Bowl where they just ran the ball. And I think even Jimmy knew by the time they got to the Super Bowl, man, these guys don't really believe in me. And then we kind of saw his failings in the Super Bowl. And then, of course, he gets hurt and the Trey Lance thing and all the commitment there. Now they're finally beyond the commitment draft wise as far as what they gave up for Lance. They have their quarterback. We'll see if they have a defense. I think the next 5 to 7 years will tell us dynasty and that didn't do its thing or not, because at least now, I mean, and we don't know. I don't know if they're going to have a great defense. They've had a very good defense. I don't know if that very good defense thing's going to continue, but if they somehow have a very good defense going forward, and you've got Shanahan, and you've got Purdy, and they keep falling short, then I'm with you. But right now, I would say just a very good defense and Shanahan and some bad decision-making at quarterback. And they just haven't been good enough. They haven't been the best team. In any of these years, they haven't really been the best team.
So you mean to tell me that we weren't the best team this year?
I mean, no, I don't think so. They scraped by in the playoffs and got beat by a better team with a better coach and a better quarterback in the Super Bowl. I don't think they were the best team. I think they were among the best teams. I actually kind of think that Detroit had way more talent than the Niners. I mean, they just were a little bit before their time. And that's why I think Detroit's going to be a bear next year. And Green Bay, kind of the same, a lot of rookies. They leaned on a lot of young guys, including a very young quarterback who made a very young quarterback mistake in the fourth quarter that ultimately ended the game. But I mean, the Niners are among the best teams, and they'll continue to be among the best teams. But that's why I'm like pushing hard for a Surtain or for one more move, because they do need, in my mind, they either need some great trade or some great draft pick to vault them back up. Because I think you're absolutely right. In 2019, they had Dre Greenlaw, they had Fred Warner, but those guys were great, but they were still in ascending to be great. But they were great players that they had drafted. They need a couple more great players that they draft, either on the offensive side of the ball, receiver line, on the defensive side of the ball, corner, D-line, linebacker. They need a couple more great players. And if they get, like, if you say to me, why did Kansas City win? They had more great players. McDuffie was awesome. Sneed, who we'll talk about here in a minute because he just got traded. He was awesome. Chris Jones is awesome. Mahomes and Kelsey really stood up. And they've got some of the NFL's most incredible talent. Now the Niners do too, but in my mind, the Niners are at least two great players away from being in that dynasty range of like, oh my God, it's them and then everybody else. Like, you gave the Niners a dominating corner. Well, I don't think you think the Niners are head and shoulders better than the other teams in the league? I don't.
I thought we were head and shoulders better than the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
Well, I didn't. I mean, the Chiefs had Mahomes. I watched NFL Network the night before the Super Bowl. They had 15 different guys making predictions. 13 of them took the Chiefs. NFL
Larry, whoa.
Maurice Jones-Drew, Daniel Jeremiah,
Larry,
all these guys.
Are you just trying to make a show right now? Or are you being serious?
I'm
Larry. Larry,
Coach, find
all
me somebody
season,
credible.
Larry.
Find me somebody
Larry.
find me somebody who's big time in football who picked the Niners to beat the Chiefs. I don't.
Larry,
Almost everybody
Larry,
picked the
all
Chiefs.
all season long, you and I have been talking. Last year, we were talking about how we had the best roster in football. Like all season long, bro. Like now, all of a sudden, you're talking about
But with discernible
Niners
weaknesses.
better than.
But I mean, you admit it. You yourself said the Niners have a really weak offensive line. Well, guess what
Yeah.
happened? In a major moment in the Super Bowl, that really weak offensive line looked really weak. No, I'm just saying. The Niners are among the best teams in football, but I mean, they didn't. That we've all watched teams in the playoffs. That was not like we're the best, we're kicking ass kind of a playoff run. They barely got by Green Bay at home. They barely got by Detroit at home. I mean, a lot of people thought they were fortunate to be in the Super Bowl. And then they were the favorite, but
Larry, did you feel like we were fortunate to be in the Super Bowl?
I never felt great about the Super Bowl. I never felt great about it. I just didn't. They weren't playing that well. They were going up against the team that had the better defense and the better quarterback. I was hopeful. Man, I mean, I wanted it. I was in Vegas.
So what would we need? What would we need? What would we need on this team for you to feel like we're one of just no holes on the team? Because that's not realistic.
Well, you're always going to have some holes. I mean,
right.
You're going with Malik Collins and Jordan Elliott at defensive tackle right now. Those guys are not stars.
I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about the team that we went into the Super Bowl with.
Your center was a street free agent. Your right guard was a combo of a 4th round pick and a free agent anybody could have had for nothing. Your right tackle was a 5th round pick. I think you were right when you said, there was concerns about the offensive line. I never really fought it, all year because I really kind of agreed. And then
so you just let me fall on the sword.
Well, no,
I really fought it.
I wanted it. I mean, I wanted the 49ers to win the Super Bowl badly. We've been waiting, man. I mean, come on. I mean, I was there for 81, but for the younger fans, man, I really wanted to see them. Anybody in their 30s has yet to really see the Niners win a Super Bowl. So I badly wanted to see them win it. But I acknowledge to you and to Grant and to Jesse and to Vish and to others that your guys' primary concern of the offensive line not being good enough was a legitimate concern. And I think that's why, like where we're at right now, Coach, I think that one of the things I'd be tempted to do would be to just devote this entire draft to, upgrading that offensive line. Because if this Niner team could get maybe one piece on defense, maybe one more rusher, maybe one more corner, something along those lines, and rebuild the offensive line into something big time, I love their chances. I think this is the draft to do it. Now, I don't know if I love their chances this year, but I love their chances of answering this question that we've entitled the show. Will Shanahan win a Super Bowl with the Niners? I think if he invests smartly in his offensive line in this draft and maybe gets a piece or two on D, I think they can win it. I think they're good to go. I love their chances. But Green Bay's coming, man, and Detroit's coming, and there's probably 3 or 4 other teams that I'm not even thinking about right now that are really on the verge of stepping into this Super Bowl picture. Houston, yeah, that's a great one. Houston for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe another. I mean, obviously, Kansas City's going to continue to be there.
Baltimore, I like what the Rams
are doing. Baltimore's a constant. They just, the Rams. I mean, there's a couple teams. Maybe Washington if they draft the right rookie quarterback.
If they get the right quarterback. But Dan Quinn, I mean, there is something about Kyle's career that I do empathize with him on this. Is that Kyle gets a lot of flack for blowing the Super Bowl in Atlanta, and Dan Quinn gets no blame, absolutely no blame.
Right.
And if I'm Kyle, I have
Well,
to.
is that fair? I mean, let me say this.
It
I
is
know
not. It's not fair.
Dan was the head coach, but a lot of the complaints are about how the Atlanta offensive play calling went after they were up 25 points.
But he's the head coach.
Right. But
And
I don't was he even on the offensive headsets, I wonder? I mean,
he
Shanahan
should be.
he's Shanahan that offense averaged almost 9 yards on first down. You're right though. I mean, Shanahan takes the blame for that. He
Dan
probably
Quinn gets
shouldn't.
none of that blame, bro.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be on him, honestly. And I know for a fact that Adam Peters was very upset about missing on Ben Johnson. He really believed that was something that was going to happen. He had been working on that for years to try to make that happen, and when it didn't, Dan Quinn is kind of a consolation prize
Well,
in
good. Maybe
Washington.
that will slow them down a little bit, right?
Exactly. And my opinion of Washington is that they're doing all of the right things. They are, especially with Adam having full control. And they're already there's a possibility. I just saw a report today that they're taking calls about the number 2 pick. There's a lot of people pushing, maybe trying to trade up to get to that pick. But
Who are they going to use at quarterback then?
I think they should get Jaden Daniels and not look back. Go ahead and get Jaden Daniels or Drake May, whatever you want to do. Get a quarterback.
Are you not a believer in Caleb, or you're just saying Caleb's going to Chicago?
Well, both. I think he's going to Chicago, and I'm not necessarily I'm not too hype about Caleb. I just feel like his game is predicated on him being faster or him being ahead of the players that he goes against. And he really doesn't like to be rushed, like as far as his clock is concerned. And the NFL is all about being able to operate when you're being rushed, when you have to play to the tempo of the defense that's facing you. And that's really what the NFL is. It's a governor of what speed am I going to play today? Right? You're not going to always get the tempo you want. You may have to play at double time speed. You may have to play at 3/4 speed. You may have to play certain times when the defense is really geared up to go against you during certain areas of the game. And when you get defenses like that in college that have enough players to play against Caleb, he struggles mightily. And it's not just with maybe like his decision making, but he struggles with staying in the pocket. Sometimes he sees ghosts when he gets sped up. He's not necessarily accurate all the time. He likes to kind of bake the ball when he gets out of the pocket a lot of times, but he doesn't have the athleticism to pull it off like a Lamar, right? So you can't really pull the string. And he tries to do that stuff, and I feel like he's going to get into the NFL and he's going to play against real speed on a consistent basis, and he's going to try to start pulling some throws off that just are not there. I think Caleb Williams is going to struggle. I do. Now, I could be wrong, but this is why I talked about Ryan Tannehill. We follow the sword for all of our bad takes. But
well, no, I mean, here's the thing. We all, history tells us that there's going to be a bust or two here, or 3 or 5. I mean, we don't. Yeah. There's a lot of first round busts at quarterback. I think it's safe to say that between Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Jaden Daniels, one of those quarterbacks is going to be a bust. One of those 3. And the question is, which one's it going to be? And I would say if I had to bet, I would agree with you. I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I'm not a huge Caleb fan. I see he's 6'1", 215. He's a great athlete. He's made some amazing plays. I love the competitive fire, but there is some inconsistency. I mean, he doesn't always throw the prettiest ball. I think he's not quite as refined as Daniels. I think Daniels is a little bit more refined thrower of the ball. I like the way Daniels looks. I mean, I didn't like Daniels at ASU, but man, that seems like a lifetime ago.
Yeah,
I mean,
but now he's
looked pretty good.
I was going to bring that up.
He looked good.
At ASU, he did not look like anything near to what he looks like at LSU, but he really doesn't have a lot of time on task for the quarterback position. And like in some positions, you can get away with that, but Jaden Daniels hasn't played a lot of football. So that's one side of Jaden Daniels that I don't know about, and the durability issue. He's a wiry kid. And I don't know how his body's going to respond to the pro game. So right now, there kind of is a little something that's a red flag with everybody. I feel like Drake May, he's an amazing prospect, but in a lot of instances, I feel like he's a project. Big kid, big arm, but he really doesn't see the field that well. You know, buyer beware, man. You know, but that's the quarterback deal. I mean, look at us. We got a guy that we traded up for, played him for 4 games, and shipped him out. So quarterback business is a wild one. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's the hardest position to evaluate. Just looking at Jaden Daniels, by the way, he goes to ASU 2019. He completes 60%. 2020, he completes 58%. 2021, 65%. Then he transfers to LSU. First year at LSU, 69%. Second year at LSU this year, 72% with 40 touchdowns and 4 picks. He did have an awesome first year at ASU, 17 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. But his last year at ASU, he was 10 touchdowns, 10 picks. And here he is 2 years later, 40 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. How much of that is Brian Thomas? How much of that is Malik Neighbors? How much of that is the kid? I don't know. I really don't know. And as far as Drake May, I don't know. I mean, I've watched Carolina a lot, and I kind of like him, but I don't love him. I mean, he's 6'4", he's 230. He seems to play with some urgency. He seems like there's some real toughness there. The dad played football at North Carolina. The brother was a basketball player at North Carolina. His brother Cole won a baseball title at Florida. His brother Bo is a member of the UNC basketball team currently. So, I mean, it's an athletic family, kind of the way that Brock Purdy came from an athletic family. This kid comes from an athletic family, so that's a good thing. But I mean, we're talking about a guy who wasn't even first team All ACC this year. He was second team. He is a smart kid. He was all academic. And he's big and he's fast, he's decent speed. But I don't know. I mean, I couldn't say. I mean, I watched him. I thought he looked good, but I didn't think he looked awesome. You know what I mean? So this is a very evaluating quarterbacks. This is why it's so. You see some teams just punt, like the Niners did, like Shanahan did with in the first year when instead of handicapping Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, it's like, let's just punt. Why? Because you know what? It's really, really hard to evaluate the quarterback. And if we get it wrong, we're going to kick ourselves because we could have had Kirk Cousins in a year for nothing. You know what I mean? And then they fell in love with Jimmy and they went down that road. And, so the rest is history. I just, you got to have in the NFL to win, you got to have the head coach and you got to have the quarterback. And Reed had the head coach and he had a very good quarterback in Donovan McNabb, but not an elite quarterback. And I think Shanahan had, was a good coach, but had, just a good but not great quarterback in Jimmy. Now I think he's got a quarterback he can win with. Now the clock's ticking. Now it's like, if I were the Niners, I would try to win the Super Bowl with everything I got for the next couple of years, because Big Trent is maybe the best player on the team and he's at the end. So, but I mean, they have their quarterback and they have their head coach, and now there's no excuses. Brock played well in the game. There's more pressure on Shanahan entering this year than Purdy. Would you agree?
Yeah,
seems like the fan base feels like Purdy played well, but the fan base also feels like, Kyle Shanahan shooting himself in the foot is starting to become a freaking trend.
Yeah, I mean, look, I see the way you shaping this, man. Like, all of a sudden, this is like, now we can assess Kyle because he's got his quarterback. Like, I see the sleight of hand that you're pulling right now, Larry.
Well, no, I believe that. I believe that. Like, if Kyle Shanahan were our guest today, Coach, I would not be like, And you didn't get it done with Jimmy, and you didn't get it done with these guys, because I don't think that they should have necessarily gotten it done. I think they were going to win in spite of the QB. Now they may have to win in spite of the coach if he keeps coaching like this in big games. This last big game in the Super Bowl, I didn't like it. I mean, your guys didn't know the rules in overtime. I just didn't. I didn't feel like that they had a solid grasp of the situation, and I blame Kyle for that. So I'd be more critical of Kyle for this year than 19 or losing to Philly or losing to the Rams. I mean, the Philly one was rough because he probably should have called for the challenge early. And mentally, he wasn't in the right space to call for that challenge early. And that's a mistake on him. But now we've seen back-to-back years where Shanahan and how he's handled the big game have directly hurt the 49ers. So I kind of think that he has more pressure on his head right now than he's ever had.
Yeah, man. So,
but I'm a fan of Shanahan. I'm a believer, maybe more so than you.
Okay. So we talked about this a while ago, and I just want to know if you remember this. Okay. I told you, I said, the fan base and you are going to turn on Kyle before you turn on Brock. And right now, you're seeing the praises of Kyle. And this was during the quarterback competition. And you were saying that, go back and look at this stuff, guys. All of this shit's recorded, okay? But you were saying how Kyle was infallible, that the players need to get their acts together. We got to figure out what the quarterback situation is. You were like on this huge, like this Brock Purdy volcano. Like you knew this was your guy, all right? And I was telling you, I said the issue
that is correct, by the way, for everybody listening. I am the guy who knew that Brock was their guy. While you guys were saying he wasn't good enough, I was over here saying he is good enough. He is good enough. He is good enough. I said it to you. I said it to Jesse. I said it to Grant. All you guys kind of intimated that he wasn't good enough. And I kept saying he is good enough. And I don't know that I ever said that Shanahan. What did you say that Shanahan what?
You were saying, I was telling you, like, dude, what's gonna happen is that you're gonna get to the point where you're finally going to start admitting the fact that Kyle messes up in big games. He's gonna get himself fired, okay? Because the ascension of Brock is gonna be the descension of Kyle. I told you this, and I said you're going to be on here.
What? No, you.
Hold on.
You
I said it's going to get to the point. It's going to get to the point. Hold on. It's going to get to the point where you are going to be bashing Kyle and saying that it's all on Kyle and that Brock is the one that is going to have to win in spite of Kyle. And here you are. Here you are on March 23rd in the year of our Lord 2024.
The year of our Lord,
bashing Kyle Shanahan.
I'm not bashing. I'm just saying that we now have more evidence of him shooting himself in the foot, and
what did you find out this year that you didn't know last year? Honestly,
well, I mean, he's very, very, very stubborn, and this was a year where, if you ask me, why did the Niners fall short? I would blame Shanahan. No, maybe not the same way or for the same things that you would blame Shanahan for, but I'm blaming Shanahan. Why? Because in my mind, it was real obvious that you needed to spread out the physical abuse that Christian McCaffrey took, and he didn't. I asked him about it directly. You guys all saw it at the podium in September. I said, Kyle, CMC's on pace for 400 touches. Is this sustainable? Is this your plan? Is this something you want? And he just dodged. He was like, He's our running back, and we like to hand it to him, and we like to throw it to him. And it's like, okay, but guess what happened? You got to the Super Bowl, and you had a super fresh J.P. Mason and a super fresh Elijah Mitchell and a not that fresh Christian McCaffrey. And then the other side of it was on defense. I thought they should have used Jalen Graham and the other guy, D. Winters, more than Greenlaw and Warner, and made sure that they got to the playoffs with a healthy Greenlaw and Warner. They didn't. And they got to the playoffs. If the Niners had Greenlaw in all 4 quarters of that game, the way he was playing that day, that could have been the difference right there. And they didn't do it. They ran him into the ground. So I didn't like the way he.
Wait a minute.
He's the head coach.
All right, I give you that. So Larry, 45 minutes ago, you were just saying that we were not the best team in the Super Bowl. And we get to overtime with losing Dre Greenlaw. And you just said that if Dre doesn't get hurt, there's a different outcome. There possibly could be a different outcome to the
I said
game.
Maybe there's a different outcome, but I believe that there might have been. I mean, that's the difference between winning and losing is 1 or 2 great players.
But we took him to overtime without Dre. That doesn't constitute that we were the better team if we lost Dre and still took him to overtime?
Yeah,
against Patrick Mahomes?
If the Chiefs had gotten to overtime and they didn't have Sneed and McDuffie, it would have been a different deal. If the Chiefs had gotten to overtime and they didn't have Travis Kelce, it would have been a different deal. I think you can logically
because they were already not as good as us. That's why it would have been a different deal.
Well,
we lost Dre Greenlaw and even though it hurt us, we still took that and kept on ticking. Like we got to overtime with that. You think
why are they better? Why are we better than them when they went to Baltimore and beat the Ravens? They went to Buffalo and beat the Bills. We stayed at home in our own beds and barely skated by the Lions and the Packers. I mean, I wanted the Niners to win the Super Bowl, but I was not cocky. Like, oh yeah, we're taking them down, and this is no, because it's who you played and how did you play them, and they played better teams and they played them tougher than the Niners did. I thought in the playoffs.
So did you have us? So what was your score prediction for the Super Bowl?
I mean, I've wanted the Niners to win, and I predicted the Niners would win. I talked myself into it, but I was nervous as hell. I didn't feel good about it. I mean, the Chiefs had the better D, and the Chiefs had Mahomes, and the Chiefs had Reed. And what did the Niners have? The Niners had Purdy, who I believe in a lot. They have Shanahan.
Get away with. Go ahead.
They have Shanahan, who, let's be honest, Shanahan. I've hoped the same way I've hoped for the Niners. I've hoped for Shanahan, but it hasn't happened yet. He's continued to shoot himself in the foot in big games, and the Niners had the second best defense, who had dogged it in the NFC Championship game. And I was just hoping that because they had dogged it and guys like myself had called it out, that maybe they would circle the wagons with some monster defensive effort. And they kind of appeared to be going in that direction in the first half. But ultimately, I think, I think Shanahan had a lot to do with their demise in this Super Bowl. And that's why I think he enters this year with a lot of pressure on him.
Wipe your lip.
He has pressure on him in this going.
How do you
don't paint this like I'm
you are so talented.
I'm not flip-flopping.
So talented. How do you get away with doing this?
I'm the guy who told you that the quarterback was good enough. You are the guy. You guys, Grant, you, Jesse, others, you guys were the guys who were like, I don't know if he's the guy. Now you know he's the guy, but you didn't know he was the guy before Super Bowl Sunday. I'm the guy who said he is the guy. So don't make me like, hey, now you're changing your tune. You guys are changing your tune. I'm singing the same tune. I'm starting to listen more to your and Grant and Jesse's criticism of Kyle. And now I'm taking it more to heart because we have more evidence. If I've flip
All
flopped,
right.
I've flip flopped on
I'm not
Kyle.
saying that you're flip flop. I did not say
No, but
those words. I
no,
know.
I know. But
I know
if you
that,
want to call me a flip flopper, I'm losing confidence in Kyle Shanahan. That's where I'm at. I
all right.
believe in Purdy, but I'm losing confidence in Shanahan. And I'm losing confidence in the Niners defense, to be honest. That's why I think they need a Surtain, because I like the D, but I don't love the D. You know what I mean? I like their D line. I don't know if I love their D line. You know what I mean? I like their secondary. I don't know if I love their secondary.
You
I
talking
like
about now? You're talking about now, or you were talking about during the season?
just going forward. It's like I'm looking at the
Oh,
tight in the
all right.
entirety of their D, and I'm like, I like Bosa, but I don't know about the inside guys, and I don't know about who's going to be opposite him. And I like Fred, and I like Dre, but I don't know about this linebacker. You know, who's the linebacker they just signed? Devondre Campbell. I don't know about him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like Jair Brown. I like Mooney. I like Lenore, but I don't know if they got enough in the secondary. I don't know about Hafanga. I don't know about Ambry. You know what I mean? So there's like, I'm just got some questions about Shanahan and the D now. I think you need Brock, Shanahan, and a defense. And I think they got Brock, and I believe in Brock, but now I'm worried about Shanahan and that defense. That's
All right. Okay. Well, look, moving
I
forward.
think that's fair, right? Don't you think that's fair? I mean, don't you feel similarly?
Yeah, but I don't know. Like the way that it's being framed right now is just that's what's a little confusing to me right now. Is I thought that we were talking about the team that we had during the season, not the team that's being comprised now in the off season, right?
I mean, I
So
had them at 11-6 or whatever.
right,
You thought they were 9-8, right?
yeah,
According
I
to
had them going 9-8.
Soap. So I mean, I thought they were a little better in the regular season than they wound up being. Or what did they? What was their final record? 12 They won 12. 12-5.
Well, 6 technically. Well, yeah, 12-5.
12-5. Which could have been 13-4, really, because they didn't play with any urgency in that last game, right? What was the final record? 12-5?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they could have won that Ram game, right? They could have been a 13-3 game, but whatever. We'll give them 12-5. 12-5 is what they were. I thought they were 11-6, you know, so I kind of they were a little bit better than I thought in the regular season.
Who was better than us? Once you saw the team, right? I like, and this is one thing that we can talk about. I had us going 9-8. I was off by 3 games with 12-5. The only reason why 9-8 sticks is because I held 9-8 literally from the day I made that prediction, which was during the preseason. All right, throughout the entire year, I did not move that. All right, so just because I said that they were 9-8. I still go back to the games. I did not have us losing much games as I started watching the games and predicting throughout the year, right? I don't even think I was wrong on most games where I said we were going to lose the game.
Well, and when you made the 9-8, was Brock for sure going to start, or was Brock still like they were going to maybe start Brock on the bench? Do you remember?
No, I made 9-8 before I even seen him in preseason. I said 9-8 before, like before the Oakland game, before the Las Vegas game. That's when I called 9-8. So for me, it's not the fact that I called 9-8, but it's the fact that the rest of the league was clearly down last year. We were the best team in the NFC, bar none last year. Would you say that?
Totally. In the NFC, I was a transition year. Philly was down. I thought it was a 2-team. I said it early. I thought it was a 2-team conference, and then by the end, Detroit. I thought Detroit was a year away. They may have been, but they had a really good year, and then they.
But you think that team was better than us, though?
I thought Detroit. I like Detroit's talent, especially on offense, better than the Niner talent. I love their line. I mean, I love Purdy more than Goff, of course, as you guys all know. But I like their receivers.
You taking Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams over Deebo Samuels and Brandon Ayuk?
I would absolutely, when you threw in the tight end, Laporta, yeah. I think they're
over George Kittle.
I would take their receivers. I think Amon-Ra
So you felt this way before we played the Lions or during the season?
I'm the guy. There's people I went off on.
I'm just trying to get a timeline on your
Green
thoughts.
Bay's got a great shot to beat the Niners. I said it. And I said, everybody's like, oh, it's going to be a blowout. I said, no, it's not going to be a blowout. It's going to be a super tough game because they're really, really good. And then I said the same thing the next week. And people are like, oh, my God, you're just this. Everybody who plays the Niners is great. And I'm like, no, I just believe in Green Bay and Detroit. And I thought the Niners would beat both, but I
in them is not thinking that they were a better team, though. That's the distinction.
I like their talent better. I said it going in the Super Bowl. I like Detroit's talent better than Kansas City's talent. Overall, if you want to go outside of Mahomes, of course, I love Laporta. I think Amon-Ra is amazing. Jameson Williams is one of the fastest, receivers coming into the league we've seen.
But hold on, wait a minute.
They've got a lot of great weapons.
Listen. You know how this works. Especially the tempo during the season.
Georgia running back.
The tempo during the season, Jahmyr Gibbs, the tempo during the season is you have to highlight what other teams do well, especially if you see a trend on how they can beat us, especially on something that we do that we are weak at, that we're deficient at, right? That's how you build the narrative of shows. So I'm not talking about recognizing the level of talent of a team, that they're good and that they can beat us. But I'm talking about net, when we look at games, the Ravens, right? I remember you distinctly saying, we're losing to the Ravens. The Ravens are a better team than us. And it didn't have anything to do with how you felt about what our weaknesses were at that moment. You felt that objectively they are a better team than us and we're losing to them, right?
I thought we can't stop the run and they can run the ball.
Right.
We're gonna lose that game.
So did you think, you said that the Packers, you said that the Lions were better than the Niners. So you thought that the Lions were objectively better than us before we played them? Like this was an underdog game that we were playing?
No. I like the Niners to win the game because of the secondary of the Lions, but I thought that the Lions offense is better and more unstoppable. They have the better line. We're talking the Niner line was, as we said, we were holding our breath. The Lions line is monster. As much as I like Kittle,
you'd be leaving crumbs to I
love Kittle, but I love Kittle, but Laporta is a way better receiver. I love Ayuk and Debo, but Amon-Ra had an amazing year. Look at all the balls he caught. So, I like Purdy more than Goff, and I like the Niners to make plays against their secondary. But I thought that was going to be a shootout. I'm like, man, this could be a shootout because I don't see the Niners defense stopping these guys. I was really worried. The way that Green Bay pushed the Niners around on defense, I'm like, Detroit's going to push the Niners around on defense. And they did. Mm-hmm. They absolutely did. They pushed the Niners around on defense. They got Dan Campbell.
I got you, man.
And Joe Young. Laporta is not a better receiver than Kittle. You're right. Laporta is a way better receiver than Kittle. Kittle is not anywhere close to Laporta as a receiver. If we're just talking about running routes, catching passes, Sam Laporta is miles ahead of George Kittle. George Kittle's good, and he's a better blocker. You could argue he's the more all-around guy.
So Sam Laporta's miles ahead of George Kittle.
I think so. As a receiver, no doubt.
And you felt that way before we played them?
I felt that way when I watched. First of all, when you do the deep dive on Sam Laporta, what you'll find is that this guy was like a once-in-a-lifetime high school player. He set high school receiving records in the state of Illinois that stand to this day. He was an amazing receiver. And, to me, Sam Laporta is an incredible tight end. I think he's one of the best in all of football right now. I think he's absolutely better than George Kittle as a receiver. Kittle is a really good blocker, and a tough guy, and a better blocker than Laporta. But Laporta's a better receiver. I mean, it's just my opinion. You guys can do your own deep dive and draw your own conclusions, but that's how I feel. And I've said that, been consistent about that since I did the deep dive on Laporta and the Lions, whatever it was, December. And I went back and I looked at him. I'm like, oh yeah, this guy's natural as a receiver. He's really, really good. Brian, Laporta's better than Kittle. You didn't sleep enough last night, Larry. No, I'm a Niner fan, but I'm not a Niner apologist. I'm not a Niner blowhard. I'm not a Niner, I don't go to bed in my Niner PJs. Maybe I used to as a little kid, but I don't anymore. All right, a couple other things. We're an hour in here. We've gone with just the initial topic. The other topic is that it happened last night, Coach. L'Jarius Sneed has been traded. He is now going to Rand Carthon's Titans. Great pickup, by the way, by the Titans. Mm-hmm. And they get him for a third and I think a seventh. And now the question's being asked, is the price tag for Sneed gonna, does it drag down whatever the 49ers price tag or ask may be for Ayuk? I mean, we're not even 100% convinced the Niners want to move Ayuk. The Niners have said they want to keep Ayuk. But it sounds like, according to what I've read, that the Niners are going to at least entertain the idea of trading Brandon Ayuk all the way to and through the first round of the draft. According to The Athletic, the Niners will listen to trade offers for Brandon Ayuk throughout the first round of next month's draft. The first round is their asking price. Now that Sneed went for a third, do you think anybody would offer a number one for Ayuk?
It would be hard, especially with him wanting a deal coming. Whatever they take him, they're going to have to pay him immediately. It would be a little bit too rich to ingest that. And then, honestly, you almost kind of feel bad for BA because any team that will be willing to do that, they're not a player away. They're trying to build, right? And they don't have a number one receiver. That type of money and a move like that, you're going to go get your number one receiver. You're not going to go get a piece, right? And with going to go get a piece, you're not going to go to a contender. So right then and there, it's already he's kind of cutting his nose off despite his face with the rhetoric that we've been seeing him reaching out via social media. But the truth is that BA just doesn't have any leverage. He really doesn't. And this is, if he gets moved, it's 100% because the Niners see a market for him and they understand that they can make an advantageous move in the draft with the move with the assets they would get for him. I really don't think any of the noise coming out of the BA situation is legit until we figure out what the Niners want to do with the situation, because it's just really a money situation right now. He's due $14 million this year, and they can franchise tag him next year. And I know he really doesn't want that because the franchise tag, I think it's at like $21 million for receivers. So right then and there, he's already trying to come in at a floor of $25 million to 26 is what we're hearing. So you're already going to sacrifice $5 million off your market rate just to push for a deal too soon. So I really do believe that if they get it done, it's going to happen before camp. When the Niners get their draft picks in and they're able to see exactly what their team looks like so they can get the BA deal done. Or if not, I really believe that the truth of the matter, I think that this is all going to really blow over. He's going to play this year for $14 million, and they'll probably try to get a deal done after the season. I believe that's what's going to happen.
Did you see the details of this trade, though? So
I think it was third round pick, a future 7th round pick.
No, it's the opposite. It's a current 7th round pick. It's a 2025 third. So the Chiefs are moving Sneed, and they're not getting anything but a 7th this year, and then they get a 3rd next year. And this, of course, pending the physical with the Titans and Sneed. So, okay, so now it's interesting that you had that take on Ayuk. Now let's go back to the big show Thursday night. I asked Jesse and Vish, I said, would you trade for Surtain? They're like, no. Then we got into the discussion, and they both started arguing that Surtain's price tag is going to be like 2 number ones. And my argument was that based on what I'm reading, that you could probably get Surtain for like a 1, a 2, and a 3, with one of those picks being deferred to 2025. So maybe a 2 and a 3 this year and a first next year. But now that I'm seeing that the Chiefs got Sneed for a 3rd next year and a 7th this year, the price on Surtain may not be quite as high. If the price on Surtain is not quite as high as a 1, a 2, and a 3, does that make you more in the camp of, yeah, go after him? Or are you still kind of in the mode of, no, maintain your picks, depth, don't go for Surtain, period, no matter the price? Or was your anti-Surtain take more about the price it would take to get him?
The price. It's really once you get him. He's due $19 million next year. With having Patrick Surtain on the field, right, for on our roster, Charvarius Ward is the next guy to go. You can't have 2 guys that you put that much money into your secondary and then say that we operate from the front 7. We don't. Money wise shows that we don't. And then it's going to start showing itself that we don't with the type of players that we get in the defensive line and developing guys in the linebackers for our linebacker unit and safeties. I just feel like when you put a lot of money in certain areas, it can't help but not only strengthen the area that you're allocating money to, but it's going to weaken some other areas too. And I mean, we'll be a defense. We be Seattle. A really good secondary. We try our best with some solid linebackers, and then on D-line, we try to make it work. We got one, we wouldn't even be able to afford anybody else if we got Patrick Surtain, right? If we kept Patrick Surtain and kept Mooney Ward. So, we look like Seattle on defense, where our money really would be in our secondary. I don't agree with it.
I think you're right. I think it's about money at this point. I mean, the price tag for Sneed was supposed to be a 2nd-round pick, and they get him for a 7th and a 3rd in next year's draft.
But look where he's going though, too. That also matters too. He's going to get buried there. He got his bag. He got his ring. Congratulations. Now you're about to lose for the next 5 years.
Well, and the Titans have to shoulder a substantial financial burden with Sneed's contract. And that makes me wonder what the price for Surtain actually would be in draft picks, because the Niners, as you point out, would have to then take on a very big contract in Surtain. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, especially now that the Niners are saying that they're going to listen to trade offers for Ayuk through the end of the 1st round. Mm-hmm. The 49ers hosted Malachi Corley the other day. Mm-hmm. What's your read on that? Is that are they going to try to draft? A lot of people feel like at wide receiver that Ayuk will be back, that Debo will be there, that the Niners will go super expensive for 1 year in the wide receiver room, and then maybe move off of Debo next year when it's a little bit less cost prohibitive to do so, either by releasing him or by trading him. So then when you see that they worked out, Malachi Corley, in a lot of ways, a lot of people feel like he's the Debo clone. Do you think the plan might be to draft Corley in the 2nd round and trade or move off of Debo in the offseason? Maybe you go O-line or D-line in round 1, Corley in round 2, and have him there to allow you to move off of Debo late, either in June, which to me doesn't make sense, or maybe next year, which seems like it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, I love Malachi Corley. I mean, he just keeps getting better. I mean, if you really look at it right now, he's almost kind of has the same body type as Debo. I believe Debo's about 6 foot, maybe 220. That's Malachi Corley to the button. He first came into WKU at, I think he was about 190 pounds, made his way all the way up to 220, right? So he's gained 30 pounds since he's been in college. Also kept his speed. He's a 4.4 guy. Very quick after catch. He's known as the Yak King over there at Western Kentucky, for being able to be one of the most physical runners that they have. Also, one thing that I love about Malachi Corley is his acceleration. I mean, at one point they had him clocked over 23 miles per hour on multiple games that he played. He's a sure hand catcher. And the thing about him is that he's not just a receiver. He's a multi-positional high school player. He played quarterback, a little bit of running back, played some outside linebacker on defense in high school. So you're also getting a guy who just knows ball, right? He can play the sport, not play the position. That's a very big thing that you need to have in any football player, but it shines as a priority here because of being a willing blocker, being able to run hard on routes to get downfield. That's something that I think Malachi Corley, if you want to put him 1-on-1, since we're talking about Deebo Samuel versus Malachi, one of the things that I feel like Deebo can do is Deebo's a little bit more physical after the catch, especially going downhill. But as far as feet, and actually being able to cut on a dime and give you real receiver moves where you get actual routes, Malachi Corley is over Deebo Samuels in that in spades. It's not even close. On top of the fact that Malachi Corley, for what he does in intermediate pass catching, blocking after the catch, being able to get those screens, those now routes, those tunnel screens that we all know and love from Deebo, he's a deep threat. He can actually get downfield, right? And actually burn guys. So, it could be a viable option. And just the way the game works, everything goes downhill, right? At one point, Deebo Samuel was a pure weapon, right? Because he was just so rare and unique inside of the tapestry of what was happening in football at the time that he made a name for himself. And then it got elevated when he came to this offense and got showcased. Now there's guys out there now that are kind of taking on the same ilk, and you're going to see a lot more Deebo Samuels out there. There's a kid out of Alabama. I believe is Kendrick Law or Kevin Story, I believe. One of those guys. Wears number 19, scat back kid, plays receiver, short, stocky, yards after the catch. So these guys are popping up now. And if we're going to keep doing things the way Kyle has shown us offensively, then we got to get a Deebo replacement. It's not a slight on Deebo, but it's just how the conveyor belt works. We got to find a guy that fills your skill set. I think it would be a great pickup to get him.
Great tone. 765 says at Bang Bang. What's your thoughts on Ryan Flournoy, the wide receiver from Southeast Missouri State? I'd like to get him in the 6th round. I'll say this: he runs great.
Yeah,
this is a good sized receiver, 6'2". 200 pounds plus. He's an Illinois kid. And he went to Iowa Western Community College. He went the JUCO route and then transferred to Southeast Missouri State, which I think is where Delaney Walker may have gone.
I think
go
so.
back and research that. But this kid's good. I mean, he's got speed. He's got size. He's going to be a late round sleeper. I like Flournoy a lot. I mean, I don't remember his combine time, but it was good. I mean,
I know 4.4.
Yeah, I mean he can run and he's got good size. So Ryan Flournoy is an interesting day 3 receiver for sure. I don't know.
Who else is an interesting day 3 receiver? T.O.'s kid. T.O.'s.
Well, that was another topic. Tariq. So Tariq Owens worked out in front of
Niner. Is that a real topic?
Well, yeah, because it's on Niner Nation today. I saw Matt Mayoko put out that this kid went to Missouri State. Tariq.
Hold on, the Niners looked at him?
Yeah, they worked him out. They worked him out at the University of Missouri. And I guess he ran 4.51, so he's not a burner. But he had a vertical 38.5. That's pretty good. Broad jump of 10.4. That's very good. And he's T.O.'s son, and he's 6'1". He's 200 pounds, so he's not T.O.'s size. 4.51 is not slow, but it's not fast. He had his most productive year this year, 28 catches, 528 yards. 4 touchdowns. Only somebody named Raylan Sharp had more receiving yards on the team. So he was second on the team. What do you think? Have you seen T.O.'s kid? I haven't seen him.
I've seen a little bit of him. I mean, at 6'1", 200 pounds. I mean, one thing I will say, he's got good ball control. I've seen some film on him as far as like he's a physical runner. He almost kind of looks just like T.O. running. You know how T.O. has like that upright gait where his arms are really stiff. He kind of runs from his elbows. He kind of has that move going on. Average feet, but he is physical. He's a real 50-50 ball guy, loves to get the ball up in the air. Somebody that he didn't have necessarily a talented quarterback. So a lot of the balls that he was going after were kind of some of the stuff that he would see here. And he's a bigger body. I mean, he almost kind of reminds me of he doesn't play like his father. If I had to give him a comp, remember Jordan Matthews out of Vanderbilt?
Yeah. Rice's nephew, I believe.
Yeah. He kind of gives me Jordan Matthews vibes. Big kid. He can get out and run if you give him space. Not necessarily nuanced.
Doesn't separate. I mean,
he's not necessarily going to separate. That's why I said he's a 50-50 ball guy, where a lot of the catches that he makes are going to be under duress. He's going to be wrestling to get the ball. He has good hands for, that's how you go and get your money. He has good hands, but I would see him as, maybe a late signing, probably not going to get drafted this year, but
yeah,
he's a look.
Well, and we're going to find out how the Niners view, these guys with ties to the organization, because there's a bunch. There's Brandon Rice, there's Luke McCaffrey, there's Frank Gore Jr., and now there's T.O.'s kid. And we'll see. Do they have a propensity to go after guys that are in-house, or do they leave those guys alone? I'm going to be eager to see on draft day. As we get closer to draft day, we are almost 1 month away. It is the 23rd of March. The draft is the 25th of April. So we're about a month away. And one of the things that I think make some of the better drafting teams really good are the fact that they go after a player they love. You know what I mean? I mean, you look at, I just been touting Detroit. Detroit's got a really good GM, and I forget his name, but he's a good GM. He's a really good GM, in my opinion. And they're doing a really nice job in the draft. Brad Holmes is his name. They're doing a nice job because they're saying, you know what? And by the way, the Lions signed Kevin Zeitler. I didn't realize that. That's a good pickup too for their offensive line. So now their offensive line has Penei Sewell, Kevin Zeitler, Frank Ragnow, Graham Glasgow, and Taylor Decker. I mean, that's a damn good line. And then they've got Jamison Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown. We'll see what else they do in the draft. Laporta at tight end. But they handpicked Laporta, and they handpicked Jahmyr Gibbs. And they had already added David Montgomery. So there were people that didn't even think they needed a running back yet, but they wanted Jahmyr Gibbs badly. And they handpicked Brian Branch, and they just, it wasn't like, oh, we'll play the board. It's like, you know what? We want certain guys, and we're going to go after them. I like that approach to drafting. And just two guys that with a month before the draft gets here, that I'm kind of fired up on. I want your thoughts. I love the Buckeye kid, Michael Hall Jr. And he ran in Columbus 2 days ago, 4.76. He did like 28 reps on the bench. 4.76 at 299 pounds makes him the fastest defensive tackle over Braden Fisk. If you take the combine times. And Michael Hall had like the second best pass rush win rate of any defensive tackle in college football this year. He's also one of the youngest prospects in the draft, according to what I've read. What do you think of Michael Hall? I mean, he's 6'3", 300 pounds. He's not 6'6", 350 or anything. He's not a monster in the middle. He's not really a one gap guy. He's more of a 3 technique, 5 technique, guy. He's an interior player, but he's more of an interior player with pass rush than he is like a clogger. He's not. There are some one techniques in this draft. Tavondre Sweat from Texas and McKinley Jackson from A&M and a few other guys, Evan Anderson from Florida Atlantic, Jordan Jefferson from LSU. There are some true one gappers, or two gappers who play that one technique, I should say. This is not that player. Michael Hall is more like Chris Jenkins from Michigan. He's more of a pass rushing interior player. But have you seen any of Michael Hall this year, Coach? He wore 51 for the Buckeyes. What do you think of Michael Hall? Every day if you watch his film and then look at his workout, man, I mean, this guy's really something.
Just to put it in
perspective, Aaron Donald ran 4.68. This guy ran 4.76. So I mean, even Donald was unbelievably fast, but this guy's incredibly fast too.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I will tell you about Michael Hall Jr. is that I am familiar with him. And the skill set that I see with him is almost like a DJ Jones with a higher ceiling. Shorter guy, stocky, penetrating defensive tackle, really knows how to get after the quarterback, but it's more, he's not going to give you numbers. He's going to be able to get you two gaps. He's going to take on a double team. He's going to be able to force the bubble and spill and be able to help linebackers to push things inside or to be able to take cutback lanes. It would be a sneaky good get to get him. I don't know where is he at on the defensive rankings?
Well, I mean, he's moving up because of that 4.76. But I mean, I would say most of the draft simulators have him mid to late second round. Some have him in the early third.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to get him
in the second. He's going to be a second round pick.
The only thing about Michael Hall, the only thing about him is that I just want to be able to make sure that his body can hold up in the league. He's going to have to gain a little bit more weight. He's running that 4.7, but I'm going to tell you, saying that he's 305 or 310, that's a little bit rich. He's hitting the scales at like 290, 295.
Yeah.
He's not that big of a guy.
Right.
So he does have landscape, though. He's 6'3", and he looks like he's 6'3". He's not just all height. He's got the frame to go with it. So he could stand to put on more weight, turn that 4.7 into maybe a 4.9, and then we really got something on our hands on the interior. But for right now, I do believe that he would be a good get in the second round. That's somebody where, especially on our defense, I wouldn't dare say that this guy is in the same ilk of Arik Armstead because he's not. But we do need another top-end talent in the defensive tackle. I feel like we do. Just replacing Jordan, missing Javon Kinlaw and Chris Givens and Arik Armstead and replacing them with Jordan Elliott and Malik Collins. That ain't it. Like, we need some top-end talent on the interior defensive front. So I'm looking for them to try to make that move. And I do agree. Like, I know we've been on Krueger all off season, right? And that's cool, but he's not a first-round talent. And picking him up at 31 would be rich, in my opinion. Would you agree?
I disagree, actually. I think he's a massive. I think he's a monster talent. But there's a risk. There's some risk involved. Well, I just think that. Yeah, I mean, I think he's a monster talent, Coach.
But at 31, that's my question.
Yeah, I kind of do. I kind of think by the time next month gets here, I don't think he falls to 31. I think Aurora, I think he goes in the 20s. I think somebody's going to be like, look at this guy, because that combine workout was amazing, and he's got the body for it, and he's got production. And supposedly he's a really good kid who works hard and he's super smart. So I think Aurora as a prospect is going to vault in front of the Niners by draft day. That would be my guess. Maybe I'm wrong because, all the mocks still have him in the middle of the second round.
Yeah, and that's where I kind of see him at, to be honest. I think that he's a talented kid at 6'4", 294. But again, like, he's 6'4", 294. All right, and Mike is 6'3".
6'2". Yeah, 6'2",
Yes.
6'3",
Yeah.
300, 290.
Yeah, and he gives you the much more athleticism. Like I feel like Rook actually plays bigger than his actual size is. He plays like he's 6'5", 330, that big two gapping shade that's gonna eat up tackles and guards and be able to be penetrating for he's gonna give you no less than 3 yards penetration every time every time he one arms. I Rook plays like that, but he's not that size at all. And you have to look at that skill set where, in a way, you know who Rook reminds me of, in a sense?
Who's that?
Javon Kinlaw. Javon Kinlaw didn't really have technique in college. He had size and he had strength, and he bullied a lot of people in college. And that's how he made his name, because he two gapped and he had a great body. He was, ridiculously strong and athletic. So you can't teach his beautiful physique. However, when Javon was at South Carolina, a lot of his claim to fame was his sheer dominance on how he could two gap, how he could move offensive linemen and take up space on the inside. But once he started playing against guys who had technique and that knew how to play against his strength, where they played against offensive linemen, where it's like, dude, I know you're big and you're cut out of granite, but that ain't shit. We see this all the time. He struggled, and he had to start playing with technique, and he struggled with that technique on top of course, his injuries. But it took a while for him to realize that your strength on this platform needs to be put. You need to put a little bit more skill set around this for you to actually get to it. That could be an issue for Rook, in my opinion, because a lot of what he does in college is sheer strength, dominance moves, being stronger than a lot of the players that he's going against. And you're not going to see a lot of that in the NFL. I think it would be rich to get him that high.
I think we're talking about two different guys here. What did Aurora run? Do we know? Let's check what Aurora ran. I think
489.
489. Well, I think Kinlaw probably ran in that neighborhood too. To me, I see a much faster player than Kinlaw when I'm watching him online. When I'm watching the video, than Kinlaw. Yeah, 480 is what Kinlaw.
Yeah, Javon ran a
ran.
4.8. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what he reminds me of him, because they both look amazing physically. They look great in their pads, right? They play with dominance and strength, disruption, okay? Not a lot of skill, but definitely effort, intensity, all right? But at the same time, I bet there's a lot of people that don't know that Javon Kinlaw runs a 4.8, because you don't see that speed on the field. You don't see that translate. You don't see it. And you don't necessarily see that with Rook either. That's just my opinion.
Well, Rook ran a 4.8 something. So, but I'll say this, man, Rook is
play like Jane Terradome.
Rook. I think Rook's I think Rook's can be a much better player. I mean, Rook is I think a better all around player. I think he moves better. I think he comes off blocks better. I think he's working on his masters. He's the team captain. He's the leader of the team. I think Rook's going to be pretty good. Let me give you a guy that I really love in the draft.
Okay.
That I can't imagine the Niners going for, but the more I watch him, the more I think, God, they got to get this player. He's just such a damn good player. I'm a huge fan of the Michigan running back, Blake Corum. And I know he's a 5'8", 215-pound running back. He's from your neck of the woods. He's from Marshall, Virginia. How far is Marshall, Virginia from where you're at?
Not nowhere near where I'm from.
In Marshall, Virginia is not a couple hundred miles away or something.
It's got to be a couple of 100 miles away, because it's not anywhere that I've seen.
Okay. Well, he's from Marshall, Virginia. He went to St. Francis Academy. I saw him go for 243 yards a couple of years ago against Maryland, and I've just been a huge fan ever since. But then I saw some of the workouts that he did, and just the footwork, Then you read the bio on the kid, and he's a two-time All-American. He was voted captain by his teammates. He's a high character guy. Something tells me that Blake Corum is going to be really, really good. Now, they don't need him. They got CMC, they got Elijah Mitchell, they got JP Mason. They don't
Can I
really
interject real quick, Larry?
Yeah, sure.
Did you hear, is this true or not? I don't want to speak out of school, but did you hear that Elijah Mitchell is on the trade block?
Yeah, I have heard that. That's actually where I was going. Where would you consider moving one of those backs in a trade? And would you consider Blake Corum? I mean, the Niners have not had luck with third and fourth round backs. I mean, they really haven't. They've had much more luck with, late in the draft kinds of backs. And there's a bunch. I mean, I could give you 15 different names of running backs that I really, really like. But this kid is special. I'm not saying I see Emmitt Smith, but I think he's really special, Coach. I think the 49ers would not be disappointed if they drafted Blake Corum. He obviously wouldn't play over Juice, and you'd probably have to trade one of those two other backs. But man, if I could find a way to get Blake Corum in this draft, I think I would do it.
I'm sold. I've seen him throughout the season, but I'm looking at him now. Running back's one of the easiest positions to scout, Larry. You know this.
Yeah. What you see is what you get.
What you see is what you get. And you can't fake talent with the ball in your hands. It is what it is. And what I see right now is, dare I say, a polished Elijah Mitchell. Low center gravity, sure feet. He doesn't waste any space either. He gets downhill in a hurry. I'm looking at him running an outside zone versus Maryland right now. He's coming off with a ball switch. He's taking contact, and he has good vision. He's patient, sits back behind his runners, knows that he's a small runner, so actually waits for defenders to come in after his legs so he can deliver the blow. He seems to be a conscientious runner for always falling forward. Even when he's behind the line of scrimmage, you can see his hands and how he's using backers to orchestrate, to move through, to get to the correct lane. Usually backs who are a little bit younger, or they trust in their athleticism, they bounce, they get out of there. But you can see that he's actually a conscientious runner, and he sees the plan that's actually being put forth. On top of it, he's got a nice little stutter step move, like that hezzy that he uses ad nauseum. That's really in his bag. Most of his highlights are that, and he's piped. He's got strong hands. That boy's got big arms. I like him. And he gets downhill in a hurry. You ain't got to have no 4.3 or 4.4 to be a good running back. Give me 4.5 to 4.6, and I'll take it. I like him.
You might be able to get him in the third round. That's from what I'm reading here. He may go later. He may not be a very high pick. They have him at 70 overall in the draft. 70. So that means round 2. Or that means early round 3.
I like the kid out of Louisville, Isaac Guarendo,
yeah.
Guarendo, sorry. But
it's funny you said that, because I just put a starred chat. It wasn't starred. It was just, we had this guy right here who said, great tone, a great one, 765. Go after Isaac Guarendo, running back from Louisville, and then have a Mostert type running back on the outside. I think Guarendo may be able to play fullback. He's like 225 pounds.
Man, Blake Corum is nice, man. Yeah, but Isaac Guarendo is on a whole nother level, though.
Blake Corum is really nice. Here's the other guy I really like. Joe Young says, if we draft a running back, we need Ray Davis from Kentucky.
Ray Davis.
They call him All Day Ray, and he's born in San Francisco, so that's kind of interesting. I mean,
Isaac Guarendo, man. Isaac Guarendo
nice.
I'm gonna tell you right now, that's a change of pace right there. And on top of it, he's not a small guy. He's over 200 pounds. The kid can block. I mean, he's also a weapon. I feel like getting Isaac Guarendo actually kind of makes our offense better in a lot of ways. I mean, can you imagine Isaac Guarendo and Christian McCaffrey on the field at the same time? Like, my God, you know what I'm saying? I mean, honestly,
well, that's the thing. I mean, if you can find some speed, I mean,
He
the
looks like
game's
a
about,
bigger Isaiah Pacheco.
yeah. I mean, if you can find speed, speed's dangerous. Speed's dangerous. I mean, if you could add speed, whether it be tight end speed, wide receiver, like Tyler Harrell is one of my favorite players in this draft just because he is such a burner as wide receiver speed. But that kid Flournoy, there's a bunch of guys who can run in this year's draft at wide receiver. But Garendo's interesting because he runs in the 4.3s at 230 pounds.
Yeah. I mean,
You
he's
could
a
have him be
massive
the fullback.
Yeah, I mean, he could be everything. He'd be the fullback. He could be the H back. He could be the move tight end. I mean, honestly, with that type of size, Isaac Garendo could be our second tight end in formations. Honestly,
Yeah.
with that type of speed and size at 230, he could be our second tight end. Um, I really believe that you get. I believe in getting bang for your buck players, especially when you are trying to build a team and fill holes. That's why I like Amarius Mims so much, and because I feel like it's not for the fact of what he's going to give us if we get him and bring him on the field, but it's the fact that we can kick him over to the left side as well. One thing that I know what we have talked about, you and I brought this up earlier in the offseason. As a matter of fact, you brought this up during the season when you said that we need a speed element on offense. We need something that can actually be a little bit. Hold on, let me do my best Larry impression. Christian McCaffrey runs through you. Debo Samuel runs through you. Brendan Ayuk runs through you. George Kittle, he runs through you. Nobody necessarily runs by anyone. We need explosion on the offense. So I feel like picking up Garindo would remedy that.
Let me give you, Coach, a guy that I think is a terrific sleeper. Terrific sleeper. And you know me, I'm always looking. I'm looking for sleepers.
You're in
I'm
the
out
weeds.
there. I'm beating the weeds, looking for sleepers.
Lazy Larry by day, sleeper Larry by night.
Here we go. I'm going to show you. I'm going to share the screen on this kid's picture and this kid's profile. Just because I love this kid. His name is Dante Miller.
Mm-hmm.
And here he is. He's a 5'9" running back who was kicking ass in the Ivy League. Okay. He's a Georgia kid, I believe, originally, but he grew up in Rockingham, North Carolina. He's a grad student. He's a 5'9", 200-pound running back. He went to Richmond High School, started at the Ivy League. And how many guys do this, Coach? Start in the Ivy League and transfer to the SEC. It doesn't happen a lot. This guy started at Columbia, transferred to South Carolina. He was first team all Ivy League, according to Phil Steele, and then transferred. He's a grad transfer from Columbia University. This guy is burning fast. This guy is an amazing story. He's already earned his degree in sociology. He's a member of the National Honor Society and National Beta Club. So he's super smart kid. But he also runs in the 4.2s. 4.2s at 200. And if you watch him, you're like, oh my God. It looks like Tariq Hill or somebody like that. I mean, this guy's so fast. What do you think? And you're talking about a day 3, maybe even late in day 3, kind of a sleeper. What do you think of a 4.2 running back like Darius Miller here?
Dante,
Or
you mean?
Dante Miller. Dante Miller.
No. He's more of a utility guy than an actual piece. I need to be able to see what more I can get from him just than his speed. And you
Burner,
know,
though.
burner, but is he Isaac Garindo? No, right? And I'll take a 10th on Isaac Garindo's 4.3 and his 230 and his size and strength over this kid, where you're gonna have to he's gonna be a pillow princess every time he gets on the field. Everything's gonna have to be just right to get any type of production out of kids. Like I've seen kids like this a mile away, man. Like they got something that pops. They get on certain teams where people love who they are, so they have like a little bit of a campaign around them. And then you get them on the show, and it's like in the NFL, you kind of got to hunt where you eat. You got to hunt what you eat. It's like, in a sense, like it's like going from high school to college, where high school and college, they kind of prepare you for life, right? So you don't have to go to classes every day. Now you know how to operate the things that you've learned and apply it to life as you see fit. It's kind of like the NFL when you get guys where, yeah, you're talented, you're good, but this ain't college. We ain't going to be giving you reps, specialized packages. You're going to have to prove yourself to get reps and get on the field and fight to get past guys who have other vested interests on the team. And just having a guy because he runs a certain time, that ain't enough. He got to show me more. So I get it. The speed is awesome, but there's a reason why Danny Gray is on this team, right? And he was another guy with tremendous speed and, you know, all of these superlatives, but at the end of the day, he couldn't put it together. So I don't want to take an incomplete project and then, you know, we see the inevitable, right?
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
in a certain sense, we did it with Trey, right? We went after the 20% and ignored the 80. So
I mean, there's not tons of collegiate production at South Carolina, so it makes me wonder a little bit, but you might this kid's probably not a draft eligible player. He's probably more like a you know, an undrafted free agent. But if you're looking for an undrafted free agent, somebody you want to bring to camp who's gonna, you know, maybe show something, this guy would be interesting.
definitely. Definitely. Like
To
as far as a target and show us what you got, kid. You know what I mean? You want to Rudiger it? Do your thing.
me.
You know what I'm saying? Knock yourself out.
There you go. All right. Last topic. We're going a little shorter today because I do have baseball now. I'm finding out I am going to be coaching today. The 49ers hosted Julian Blackmon on a free agent visit.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of talk, Coach, about trading Talanoa Hufanga. What do you think's going on there? What do you think? Do you think, you know, I can give you my take, but I'll ask you for yours first, and then we'll go from there. What do you think of Julian Blackmon as a player?
I think that he's the best viable free agent that we have right now. Think he's heady. 4-year he's a 4-year veteran who's kind of hitting the market at the right time. The safety position is down. So right now, I do feel like he's kind of getting an uptick due to the fact that there's not really a lot of good safeties out there. He'd be a good guy for us. We haven't had that type of youth at the free safety position in quite a while. It's kind of ironic, though, that Jimmy Ward spent all of this time here telling us that he was a free safety, and we played him everywhere but free safety. And now that he's gone, we need a free safety. There'd be a way, maybe we can kick the tires on him as well. That'd be something that you could think about as an outside view. But right now, we do need to get younger at the spot. And honestly, from my opinion, Jair Brown with Talanoa Hufanga, the position is a little bit redundant. They both have the skills. They both have the same skill set. You know, they're not exactly carbon copy, but there's one thing that you can say for sure. They're both not free agents. I mean, they're both not free safeties. In my opinion, Huff coming off of an injury kind of makes him vulnerable right now. And he was already trending up to get paid already. And I feel like this is the Niners getting ahead of that. They're trying to understand that we either need to get something for Huff to move on him when we need to, or we need to just cut ties with him altogether. Because they've already drafted their guy in Jair Brown. So we have to figure out what they want to do with Huff. I think that also I think that Huff
What do you think Huff
well.
what do you think Huff would bring in a trade?
4th round pick.
Yeah. I agree. I think he's a strong safety. And I think ultimately Jair Brown might be a strong safety as well. The thing with Blackmon is he used to play corner and he could play free safety. And if you look at the Niners, man, with George Odom and Taylor Hawkins and what they have, I mean, they don't have a lot of depth there. So I think they're worried that they don't have a free safety on the roster, and Blackman as a former corner, I think would be almost an ideal safety. And supposedly they're still talking to him. I don't know. That I'll say this: if they want to move Hufanga, I'll tell you one guy that I know is interested is D'Amico. D'Amico loved Hufanga. Those guys used to come out before everybody else on practice days and do drills and just talk ball. And D'Amico loves Hufanga. I wonder if you could get Jimmy Ward back in a trade for Hufanga. That might be worth doing. I mean, Hufanga's obviously younger. Probably
I don't think that
valuable.
the Niners, with the way Jimmy left, I don't think the Niners would take on that money. That would be
it wasn't a lot of money, actually.
I know. That's what was so crazy. That was so crazy. It wasn't a lot of money. So that's even reason why I feel like that's even more the reason why I feel like Jimmy does feel the way he does about the Niners, because he wasn't asking for a lot of money. The fact that they didn't want to pay him, I don't think the Niners would then take that money, and that would kind of be like a well. Look at how the tables have turned. Like,
wouldn't it? Because
the Niners would put themselves in that position.
It would be weird because it was like, hey, I want to play free safety. We're going to play you at nickel. I want to play free safety because I can make more in free agency. Okay, well, the Niners played you at nickel. Then you go to free agency. You go to the Texans. You sign a very marginal kind of a deal. And if the Niners then traded for you and played you at free safety, wow, that would be
right. The irony is crazy.
That would be ballsy, man. That would be ballsy.
Yeah.
What do you got cooking the rest of the day? What are you doing today? Are you going to be watching Tourney? You running Hannibal? What's the
we're going to run the boy. We're going to run the boy. About to go out see my brother. And look, I said we're going to run the boy. Hannibal pops up. What's up, man? You ready? So he's ready to go.
How smart are dogs, by the way?
Oh,
I mean, dude, it's amazing. My wife or I or my son, one of my sons, if we, make any series of movements, she just knows, like, it's my go time, and then, like, if we say, like, if my wife says, I don't have time today, she runs away from my wife to, like, my son, knowing that my son's gonna walk her. I mean, it's like, our dog is border. She knows she's not supposed to be on the furniture, so she doesn't even try when we're not there. But if we're not going to be there and she knows we're not going to be there, she'll jump on the leather couch.
Yeah, like, look, like this is the thing. It ain't even about what they smart. It's like, it gets crazy when they judge you. Like, have your dog ever judged you? like, look at your ass. You know I should be outside right now. Like, yo, if I go out the house, man, Hannibal just has like this old spot. He'll like go to the house and just look at the wall. Like, leave, just get out of here. I don't care. So
that's awesome. Yeah,
we gotta play nice though, because he's 170. So we gotta play nice with my boy.
Well, and he needs a certain amount of exercise as a Presa Canario, right? Doesn't he have to? You got to get him out there and run him. Otherwise,
he's do at least no less than an hour and a half, no less. You got to at least get 3 to 5 miles in, at least, right? Because he gonna want to go. As soon as he gets outside, he's on a mission. So it ain't no frolicking and going to go sniff trees. It's like, dude, he either want to get to the field, get out so we can get out and run, maybe do some bite work, or I put the harness on him. You better put your shoes on because he's going to take you for a ride. It's time to run.
Wow. So when I was a little kid, a buddy of mine had a house in the Napa Valley, and he, invited me to come over for a couple weekends. And one of the fun things that we would do when I would go over there is we would run his 2 dogs. But we were little kids, and his dad had a Jeep, and we get out on like a dirt road in Napa, and we'd have the dogs with us. And they had like not a golden retriever, but what's it called? Those white, kind of a white, like a white looking golden retriever. But
golden retriever.
But they're a little thicker. They're great dogs. Labs.
All right.
Like a white. He had like a gigantic white lab. And then he also had this like oversized, super athletic poodle. I mean, it was like a jumbo,
like a giant poodle,
a jumbo purebred poodle that could run super fast. And it wasn't like a poodle; it was like a big poodle. I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
what you would call those. But anyway, we would take these dogs in the Jeep and then take them, then, throw them out of the Jeep on the side of the road on this like dirt road. And then the dad would drive like 50, 60 miles an hour and these dogs would chase the Jeep.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
crazy.
I mean,
It's like these dogs could
Hannibal
really
turned
run.
Hannibal turned 8 on the 19th, and he had me out 2 days ago, and he still had me out there tongue wagging, tough. I mean, now, like, if we go for a walk now, we go out for a run, I got to bring water with me now. Before, when he was like 1 or 2, man, I used to take Hannibal out, bro, and it'd be like 80 degrees, 90 degrees outside, bro, and 10 miles. He's still going. Like, I would have to drag him inside when he was in his prime. Now I get a reprieve. I can take him out for like 90 minutes and he's almost looking at me like, all right, let's go. I'm done with you. Let's go. But, he's a great workout partner, man, and tons of life, man. Probably one of the best things I've ever done is get that dog.
How long, many years have you had him?
I've had Hannibal since he's 3 weeks old. I weaned Hannibal.
Where'd you get him?
I got him from my boy over here at off of Indian Head Road. He's a breeder, my boy Ty. So he's an army guy, military dude. So he breeds South African Borbals.
How many did you choose from?
Well, Hannibal's litter came with 12. Huge litter. And the thing about Hannibal is that he was already sick. So by the time I got to the litter, my man Ty was telling me, he's like, look, bro, we might as well wait a couple of months. I got one more dog left. I'm going to keep him for myself because of his markings. Hannibal is a fawn brindle. And his whole litter was black brindle, dark brindle. So he said, I'm going to try to keep him because I love his coat, but I don't think he's going to make it, man. So I went in there. I saw him, seen him that he was laid up. I said, well, give him to me. He said, all right, well, I'll give him to you for $500. I ain't even going to charge you. Here, $500 here. So I gave him he gave me $500. I weaned Hannibal, bottle fed him, and Hannibal's never had dog food in his whole life. Fed him raw from a baby, goat's milk.
What do you feed him?
Raw. So Hannibal goes with 40% protein, 20% bone, 20% offal, which is like hearts, livers, lungs, tripe, any type of organs, right? So any type of protein, what Hannibal usually takes is ground beef. I go 80-20 chuck, or we can go
raw?
Venison. Yeah, raw. We can go venison, ground beef, ground turkey. Sometimes we get in some salmon, some fish, but 40%. Once you get that raw protein in, then you break into your calcium element. So that's when Hannibal gets chicken feet. He'll get pigtails, pig snouts, pig ears, oxtails, something that's gelatinous, full of tendons, full of calcium, bone that he can have right now. And honestly, as a snack, I toss Hannibal like maybe 2 or 3 pigtails a day, raw. He'll just eat them. And then for his offal, then we'll
bone
get
and
into
all. He eats the bone
straight up, yeah.
Wow.
Straight up. And then what we'll get into is his organs. So that's when we go with green tripe, or we'll go with chicken livers, cow livers, beef hearts, all
Leon's
those
like, damn, Hannibal's eating better than me.
Yeah. So what you do is that's the protein element of it, but on the side of it, then you have like the supplements. So we can go kale, carrots, apples. You get that blended up into a slurry, and then once you make that for the week, it's kind of just scoop and pour, So he's been raw fed since the day his paws hit the ground, and it's beautiful for the dog. He's 8 years old, no breath problems, bone problems. His poops are always like never crazy. They don't wildly stink. I would strongly prefer the raw fed diet, especially if you want to breed or you want to have a sporting dog, because Hannibal's a hunting dog. He's retired now, but those are the things that I put into the dog, and it's been an amazing effect on his life. So, if you guys want to talk to me about dogs, about feeding dogs raw, I'm the guy. I'll talk to you about it. Perfect poops. You're a dog owner if you talk about perfect poops. You got to be a dog owner if you know about perfect poops.
That's awesome. Enjoy your Saturday. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle. Thanks to all of our sponsors. Thanks to all of you guys. Actually, we didn't read any of the supers, so let me hit the supers real quick. David says the more new players added, the better chance Kyle has to be a team leader. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. SJ Braveheart says part of wasting this roster is deciding to pay Jimmy G $127 million. They decided that how many teams, Larry, have this type of run the current Niners have had with no trophy. There's no doubt they don't have a trophy. I mean, as far as a run, I don't know if it's a run, but they've been in the NFC Championship game a lot. That's for sure. Frank Tom Ocean says, what do you think of the Sneed trade? I thought it was kind of a low price to be paid, but
very low.
I thought Sneed would have fetched like a 2. And the fact that he got a deferred 3rd and a 7th. Wow.
Invader 49. I saw that. Invader 49er. Like me and him me and Invader 49er, we have a love-hate relationship, especially when I start talking about Kyle. He lays it on me thick. Yeah, he goes on me hard. But this is how I know that me and him were the same type of guy. Because you got to be a certain type of guy to find out about the dude in California who got caught eating a leg from a train victim who got caught. Did you see that?
No, that sounds awful.
We're cooler than you think, Invader 49er, because I saw that too. That was crazy. It was nuts.
Al Felipe says boiled chicken is cheaper to feed dogs. I don't know.
We
feed our dogs
if digestive issues.
Yeah, if they've got, we'll give Penny, our golden retriever, chicken and rice if she has a hard time with any kind of digestive issues. Yeah. Frank Tom Ocean, what do you think of the Sneed trade? We just got that. Kyle Bentz says trade Ayuk to get Mims or stay at 31 and get Graham Barton. I like Mims's pictures and his potential, but man, the 8 starts worries me. And Barton, I think, is a center. So I don't know that to me, I like Garrett Greenfield and Javon Foster and that group a little bit further down the line. To me, if I were at 31 right now, and they kept Ayuk, so they didn't need the receiver, I like the kid Frazier, the center from West Virginia. I just think he's just a beast. We read that one, and we got this one too. He says go after Garendo. Oh, and then Joe Young says if we draft a running back, we need Ray Davis from Kentucky. And that wasn't a super, but just some of those were good at the end. All right, Coach, have a great Saturday. Thanks to everybody. Enjoy your Saturday, and peace. Appreciate every single one of you.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get it.